people are waiting for ours. Ours.
Right. And I just clicked go live.
Right, I'm looking for it. I'm gonna keep hitting refresh. Can't see it yet.
I see Bonk. Oh.
Bonk.
Oh, that's an ad.
Yeah, I got an ad for a cereal.
I got an ad for a jeans store.
Nice. I got an ad, but I don't remember what. Oh no, it wasn't an ad. One of my videos started playing really loudly and freaked me out.
Forget your star sign. What YouTube ad did you get?
Right?
Yeah.
My channel has started giving people ads, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
Oh, someone asked for you guys. Will Daniel and the Geek Apprentice be in this live stream?
No.
Let us know.
No, I'm not here.
We're not here.
Let us know if you all can hear us well.
Hello.
Sorry guys, I'm like finishing my dinner. I'm almost done, and then I'll stop eating maybe.
Don't stop eating. Just continue eating even after you finish.
Even
Just
I wasn't paying attention for a second and got confused.
What would I be eating?
Then you eat
Air.
the spoon and the bowl.
Say yes.
Whatever you can find.
Oxygen's pretty tasty. Can attest.
That's how you get the burps.
The burps.
Swallowing air.
I've never been able to do that.
Joseph in the chat says, I came here for the chaos. Okay, before we start, I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I don't have a sore throat or I'm not sick or anything. It was where I was recording like an hour's worth of audio for a bunch of videos. And like after a few hours, my voice kind of went away.
Oh no.
But,
that's fair.
Yeah. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
See.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Hylian Gamescast episode 134. Before we begin and talking about some Skyward Sword HD and the new Pokemon Presents little Nintendo Direct kind of thing, we have some Patreon supporters to give a shout out to. We have Lorenzo, David, Super NX64, Manboy Cave, Gus Calvo, Jesse, shout out to us, Lovable Christy, Nastu, Justin, Monica, Larulian Sheep, Androme, Rusty, Mr. Monoclad Metroid, Zoe, Candy, Austin, BKRS7, Blargnar, Chad, Derek, Duran, Jen, SoberX, Brandon, and Ingrid. So thank you all for that. And to start off our first topic, we have everyone here. Chublim, Daniel, and the Geek Apprentice. So,
sorry, that was my phone.
I didn't hear anything, so you're fine. We haven't had a podcast for like a month or so, and since then,
has it been that long?
Maybe.
Oh no.
Because it was.
But does that mean this is 2 podcasts in a row with all 4 of us, or was there one in between?
Oh, you're right.
It is.
I think you're right.
Because there.
So silver lining.
Yeah, because I had. The main reason why there was no videos was because I had plans for something towards the end of July, and my daughter was supposed to stay with her grandmother during that time, and because it ended up not happening, I ended up keeping her for like the whole month, which is why there was no podcast, because I knew as soon as we did a podcast, she would be on camera trying to talk to everyone. But yeah, that's basically why.
Cute.
I just took time off to spend time with Layla. But we're back now. Skyward Sword HD released in July, and we haven't really talked about it on a podcast, I don't think. So we're going to give our version of a review or our thoughts. And before we begin, I want to say there was I read a thing that said the lifetime sales of Skyward Sword on the Wii was 3.67 million. So 3,670,000. in its lifetime. And Skyward Sword HD on the Switch has already sold almost twice as much within a single month. Because I think
Sounds right.
Nintendo Prime was talking about it selling like 6 or 7 million so far, which is almost double of what the other one sold in its entire lifetime. So it's kind of crazy. And if you look on Amazon and a bunch of other websites, it's always like the #1 selling game, which is weird considering almost everyone apparently hates it. So
I think it's a vocal minority.
yeah, definitely.
A very vocal minority.
Yeah. So, Geek, why don't you start off? You've been having a lot of really fun Skyward Sword streams on your YouTube channel. So, while you've been playing it, have you played it off stream, or do you save it and just play it on stream?
I only play it on stream because I know I'll get sucked in and then I'll be like 2 dungeons ahead the next stream. And since like everyone knows that I hadn't played it previously, I'm like, I want this to be the first time. But because I never played it in the past because I am very strictly left-handed, and playing right-handed motion controls, it just didn't work for me. I tried. No, it just didn't work. And it wasn't like a, oh, the motion controls suck type of thing, or that I had any malice toward the game. No pun intended. Well, I guess malice is Breath of the Wild. But anyway, you all understood what I meant. And I know plenty of people have commented on my video saying, oh, I'm left-handed and I didn't have an issue, to which I'm like, that's great. I just couldn't do it. So I've been playing primarily button controls. The only thing I did motion controls, I mean, I used gyroscope, but other than the only motion control I used was on the first battle with Ganon, because I don't know what it was. I was also just starting the game and getting the hang of the controls, but I died very quickly, and I hate dying in games. So, which is weird. So I did end up doing motion controls for that, and it wasn't that bad. It felt weird, like the whole, I don't know, I put it in my right hand, I'm like, this is wrong, I can't do it. My brain, no. But it worked out better. Thus far, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, I had watched people play it before, and I knew I loved the story, but experiencing it for yourself as someone who's been playing it is totally different, and man, it's just such a good story. The graphics are beautiful. The only thing I don't like about the graphics are people's lips. I don't know how to explain that. And Link's pants. I hate his pants. The baggy, and not saying I want him to wear tights like he does in Ocarina of Time. Something about an 18-year-old wearing tights is weird. But anyway, but I really enjoy it. I don't think the controls are that hard to get a hang of, but this is also coming from someone who's naturally not gifted with picking up games. And as far as what I know about the original, it seems like Fi is a lot easier to deal with. I personally like a little bit of hand-holding, but again, that's because I sing games. Most streams are people trying to help me and people having to tell them, stop side seat gaming, and then I'm sitting there for a long time and I'm like, yeah, leave me alone. Just kidding, what do I do? I take my time, but all in all, I really enjoy it. As someone who didn't play the old version, I really enjoy it. The story's great, the music's great. The dungeons are great. I might sound like I hate it at times, but that's because I get easily worked up when I'm being defeated. Don't let that fool you. I actually really enjoy it.
Daniel, you've been having Skyward Sword streams?
No, I have not been streaming Skyward Sword, actually.
Why not? No, not streaming. You've been covering it in your lore dungeon series.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was.
I have been doing
got it mixed up.
videos on it. Which is why I haven't been streaming it, because I've been working my butt off to get those dungeon videos out on Skyward Sword, which have been turning out pretty good. This week's one is I think you ever like do something like make a video and you feel like you just raised the bar for yourself, That's what I feel like I've done for this week's video. Just look forward to that. Sorry, shameless plug, but I've been loving the game. I originally was just gonna play through it just to record footage, but then I couldn't keep my hands off the dang game. So I started a second save file and beat it 100% already. And actually, it really didn't take me very long. It was like a matter of maybe a week, and I had beaten it. And but when I first started playing through it, I was like ready to go all in on the motion controls again. But one day, I think my wife was watching Grey's Anatomy or something, and I was gonna play, and I was like, well, I'll just play it in handheld just to try it out, whatever. And I actually fell in love with the button controls. I did not expect to. I really thought that using the sword with the right stick was gonna be too jank for me. And I think if I've tried it with the Pro controller, I actually prefer. This is so weird. This is not something I ever thought I would say about pretty much any game. I prefer to play this game with Joy-Cons instead of the Pro controller, because the right stick specifically is really snappy on the Joy-Con, and on the Pro controller, I guess you can't just like snap it sort of to the side super frequently, super quickly, as well as you can on the Joy-Cons. But I've totally, I don't know, I've just been having a blast with it with the button controls, to be honest. And I find the gyro works better that way with that control setup, because when you're doing motion controls, it sort of desyncs really frequently. So you'll pull out like a weapon, like say your slingshot or something, and Link will be like into to the corner of the screen, right? Because it's become desynced. And then you have to press Y to recenter. And so you'll pull out his slingshot and he'll be like, okay, recentered. And then he'll aim and it'll be fine. But with the button controls, it doesn't seem to desync like that. You just, like, when you start aiming, it stays centered like it does in, say, like Breath of the Wild. And that makes a huge difference, being able just to aim that much more quickly without having to do that recenter. Like, when I was using motion controls and recentering, I didn't think it was that intrusive. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was like, well, I'll just hit recenter basically anytime I pull out an item, and it's fine. Until I started playing with button controls, and I was like, I'm never going back. The button controls are really well done, and I really like using the sword with the right stick, and I didn't think I would. But it's... I actually found 𝐓𝐼𝐬 easier with button controls, ironically. I know Geek had the opposite experience, but just being able to... what I would do is I would just... I'm going to flex showing off my Joy-Cons. Hold the stick to the side to sort of psych him out, because he holds his hand out, and you have to like psych him out. So then he'll change his... And then I would literally just like let go and then push it back in that same direction. So then Link would be holding the sword to the right, and then he'd suddenly swing from the right side to the left very quickly, and you can't miss. Like, it gets 𝐓𝐼𝐬 right away. And 𝐓𝐼𝐬, of all the bosses, I find them all pretty easy, except 𝐓𝐼𝐬 I always have a hard time with I did in the original version, until using button controls, and now I'm able to breeze past him and get through him really easily. So I don't know, just there's a lot of things in the game that I felt like I had a hard time with in the original, and I'm just like blasting through in the remake and having an absolutely amazing fun time doing it. And even some of the puzzles, just the free camera control lends itself so much better to some of those puzzles as well. Like, I don't know, it feels so antiquated to not have free camera control, but it's a welcome addition for sure. But yeah, I don't know, there's so many little tweaks, like Geek mentioned 𝐵, just being able to ignore 𝐵 in so many instances. And just there's a lot of cut dialogue. They cut out the Sheikah Stone, the one that would just give you the hint movies in the original. It's just gone completely. I don't miss it. And there's a lot of dialogue that was like part of the main tutorial in the original that you can just skip. Like the kid that somersaults into the tree so that you can catch the bug. You could just walk past him in the remake, and you had to stop and talk to him in the original. There's just so much of that where I feel like the game's pacing is actually good now, because there was so many times in the original where you'd be running and the game would just grind to screeching halt to interrupt you, to tell you something, and now you can just keep running by. You can stop if you want to, but you don't have to. And it's just fantastic. But for reference, I put out like a comparison video of the intro on my channel as well, just showing how much faster getting through that intro is. And like it's you don't think much about it playing, but seeing them side by side, seeing how much slower that introduction is on the Wii, it's a big difference. As well. Actually, I think GameXplain did a video where they saw how much faster it was, and it was like to get from Skyloft, like the start of the game, to the surface. On the Wii, it took them 49 minutes rushing through as fast as they could, like jamming through every button, like jamming through a dialogue as fast as they could. It took them 49 minutes to get to the surface, and it took them 16 minutes in the HD version. That's just how much faster it is, and that's great. So yeah. Anyways, I'm done rambling. Who's next? I love it. That's what I'm saying.
I love the way that they shaved that down. That's amazing. I didn't even notice, but that's because I was having stream problems, so I
think because you were streaming it, we got to stare at Groose for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Groose, there are 2 or 3 different interviews on the YouTube channel a while back with the man who actually came up with the name Groose and named the character and some other characters and stuff. He was a writer for Nintendo before he left, and I think he went to The Late Show with Jimmy Fallon after that. But anyways, he talked about working on Ocarina of Time 3D and Skyward Sword, Kid Icarus, and a bunch of other games, but he talked a lot about the behind-the-scenes work stuff that would be going on. And with the characters in Skyloft, the only thing that Nintendo said was that their names had to be like a reference to some kind of bird. So Groose, Goose. So I thought that was interesting.
Can I just say though,
yeah,
I love when the game, like launch day of the game and that weekend, Nintendo was just going all out with the Groose stuff on their Twitter account. Like, it was hilarious. It was amazing. Like, whoever's running Nintendo's Twitter has been killing it lately. But during that launch weekend, they like completely changed their whole Twitter account to be Groose themed, and they were doing all this like posting all these like Groose memes and stuff like that, and it was incredible.
So funny.
It was amazing. So funny. I was killing myself laughing. Like, it was.
They knew what we wanted.
Exactly.
More Groose.
More Groose.
Groose on the loose.
So, Tubes, how has your experience with Skyward Sword HD been?
My experience has been very limited because, as everyone knows, most people would know, I've only actually streamed it once. I haven't played any of my free time. Can you guys hear that motorcycle?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, so like I only got to stream it once. I haven't been playing in my free time. As you guys can see, everything has changed in my life again. I moved into another place again. But from what I played of it, I didn't notice all of those differences, and like just like you not having to like stop and like talk to the kid that's rolling into the tree. I didn't notice that. I just instinctively like, I think because I've played Skyward Sword so many times, it's like ingrained in my brain that I have to roll into that tree before I can go forward.
Yeah, you don't have to now though. That's yeah, go on.
I felt, yeah, I don't know, just like it looked really good, it felt really good. I definitely will have to try using the controller instead of using motion controls because same with everyone else, like I feel like I'm constantly having to recenter it. It's kind of a nightmare. It's actually like the motion controls feel worse on Nintendo Switch than they did on the Wii, and I don't know if I'm like some sort of like Wii like sensor master or something where I didn't have problems with it like other people, but it just didn't translate as well. So yeah, I will have to give the controls a go, but very excited about how this re-release has really kind of been able to shine a positive light on Skyward Sword HD, because we have seen so many people that are like, oh, I hate this game, and it's been such a good opportunity for Nintendo to basically push this forward and go, hey, you know what? This game actually has a super solid storyline. So yeah, that's been my biggest takeaway from it, is just watching big streamers like Misclick like bring new life into it for other, you know, newer Zelda fans.
Misclick actually went to that event that happened, so it was really cool watching her do that.
Yeah, and she was like, I think was the winner, yeah.
Yeah, and she
Yes.
used my theory to win.
Yeah.
I shit you not. I'm sorry, I said a bad word, but she because they had their whole debate thing, and then one of the categories was about not confirmed theories or whatever, and she cited my Dragon Break theory, and she won.
That's
And
so
I
good.
was like, damn, all right.
I think
Okay.
actually the version that I made of it, where I added in the Hylia stuff, she was one of the people that was supposed to record before the other Mac with the good voice decided to, because Miss Click loved Skyward Sword, and since that video was like half Skyward Sword and half Breath of the Wild, she was going to be on it, but then I decided to get him, and then Geek did the lines that Zelda says, I think.
I vaguely remember this.
That's
Yeah.
a good video. Yeah.
Completely stolen from Daniel and then changed a little bit. But yeah.
Okay.
So one of the interesting things with Skyward Sword, when you start the game, you have 6 hearts instead of 3. Aonuma said, like, this was an interview like 10 years ago when the original released, but he said that the reason you have 6 hearts at the beginning is because the beginning section is much harder than previous Zelda games. And I don't know if he means the enemies and stuff are actually harder, or it's just harder because you have to get used to the motion controls. So I don't know which he meant, but he said that was the reason. So did you guys think that it was too hard or anything at the beginning?
Okay.
No.
No?
It's not a hard game.
If
That's
If I were a young kid getting into Skyward Sword for the first time ever, I would 100% get my butt kicked by that dumb little cat demon thing on my way to the shrine. Absolutely. That's why he's probably like making his way over. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go get my sword, gonna go do some cool stuff, and then gets whomped by a cat.
You could just run past it if you want, though. You don't
Yeah,
have to
but
stop
if you're 5 years old, you don't know that.
I mean, I will say,
Don't
I would
use
start off
I was gonna say, don't use your child as an example. Your child's a super genius, I swear.
You're
fair. That's, yeah, good call on that. I was struck by the bokoblins because I'm so used to the bokoblins of Breath of the Wild, who are easy to pick off. So easy. You can pick them off with a stinking ladle. So that threw me off, and like the fact that they actually do different things, and I wasn't used to having to actually swing my sword in a specific direction. That threw me off. Girahim was the only thing that was difficult. But other than that, you know, I mean, I'm grateful for the extra hearts again because I'm more into gaming for nostalgia, music, and story.
Fair.
The amount of times people have tried to get me to play other games, and I'm like, nah. They're like, it's really good, and I'm like, yeah, but I didn't play it when I was 4, or watch my brothers play it when I was 4. So am I really interested? They were like, you didn't play Skyward Sword when you were 4. I was like, but I played Zelda.
Yep. That's where your investment is.
Nostalgia is everything. But you played Untitled Goose Game. That's an anomaly.
That's that game's existence is an anomaly.
I love that
in
game.
general. No, it's great. But no, I agree. I think Girahim's really the only big challenge, you know, pre like the first or like up to the first dungeon, etc. Really, the rest of it, like the game is so generous with hearts, anyways. I don't know. It just feels like overkill. I would have rather they had reduced it to 3 and just hidden more heart pieces around. And that's actually just a complaint I have with the game in general, because in order to have full 2 rows of hearts, you need the 2 life medals. You need to have them in your pouch as well. And
That's
that's
weird.
something I wish they had fixed in the HD version, because again, you could just hide more heart pieces instead of needing to do that. Instead of using good pouch space that could go to a bottle or something useful like a quiver or an extra bomb bag, but they didn't fix that, obviously. But it's weird to me because, like, with Link's Awakening on Switch, for example, that's what they did. They added more secrets and heart pieces and stuff. So it's not like it's out of the question. You know, they've done that.
And you have more
so that was a
slots
bit.
for your inventory to have weapons and stuff.
in Link's Awakening.
Yeah. Like
Or
instead of
in-
just the 2 buttons that it
Oh.
originally had, you can use
Yeah.
the other ones.
Yes, exactly. So it's I don't know. I feel like that aspect is something I was a little disappointed wasn't fixed or anything, but I can definitely see like purists being like, well, the original wasn't like that and it was better. You know, people don't like change, but change can be good.
I would think because they brought that over to Breath of the Wild, but they made it a lot better, where you have different slots for different things in your inventory. And after Breath of the Wild, you would think if they went back to Skyward Sword, that's one of the things that they would change. Another thing that they changed that is really, really hard to notice unless you like do like a really good side-by-side comparison, I think. Who has it? It's not Game Explain, but it's Digital Foundry, I think, has a side-by-side. And a lot of people think that they just basically ported this game over in HD and like you would in an emulator. But I don't know about all the character models, but at least Link has a much higher polygon model than he did in the original.
I saw an image on Twitter about that where, like, in the original, his shoulder is like a right angle, and it actually has like there's actual curves to it, and you can see his gauntlets as well as far less octagonal shaped in the HD version. They definitely added or smoothed out some of those rough edges.
That was one of the things that I actually got while I was streaming, as someone had mentioned that it looked like they did nothing else to the game other than make Link look less clunky.
Some of the NPCs still look jank, but
A little bit.
but the increased resolution helps in like you can see Batro's eyeballs now, for example, and you couldn't in the original. I always thought that the big yellow things were his eyes, but they're not. He has little beady eyes.
My gosh.
Separate from those.
Oh, a
Poor
question
Batro.
I had
Just
for
ugly,
Geek.
ugly man.
You said that you never played the original Skyward Sword. So
Right.
going into Skyward Sword HD would be like your first time. So
Basically.
because you've made so many videos for us, which a lot of them talk about Skyward Sword, was the story or game ruined in any sense because of you working on those videos?
I don't feel like it, no. I mean, I definitely, obviously, I know the spoilers, right? Like the old lady in the beginning and the door slightly cracked. I know what's behind her. I know all of that. I know who the old lady is. But
And
it's still different. I do know about the hand in the toilet. I know about that side quest. I know about the devil Satan looking NPC. I know all that he apparently is just a chill dude. No, funny enough, I don't feel like it's spoiled because even though I've like watched some streams, I've watched the cutscenes because I always believed that I would never ever get to play it, so I let myself watch streams. Although funny, I was rewatching a video of mine to find something 2 years ago. I was asking for an HD version with controls, so I'm like, yay! But no, it's still, sure, it'd be cool to have those twists and turns, but I mean, also, it's been 10 years since the game came out. Odds are I would have known this stuff anyway. But it's still very different when you're playing it for yourself and you're immersed and you've got your earbuds in and it's playing the music right for you in real time and you know you're the one causing these actions to happen. It's still very different. Because the same thing happened with Breath of the Wild. I assumed I'm never going to get a Wii U. I'm never going to get a Switch. I'm never going to be able to afford that. So I'm just going to watch all the cutscenes. And it would have been nice to experience them for the first time playing it. But I found when I played Breath of the Wild for the first time on my own, thinking I was never going to get to play it, it was still very different, very immersive. Also because I played with German instead of English. So that was a different experience anyway. But that's Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, the music, you mentioned listening to the music in your earbuds. Like, the music in Skyward Sword was so great that Nintendo decided to make a touring concert from it. And then it kept going for like 5 or 6 years. I hope it comes back sometime.
Wait,
hope so.
Symphony of the Goddesses?
Mm-hmm. It was
Yeah,
the one
it
that
was on hiatus still is on hiatus.
Daniel and I got that was one of the things that we got to go out to interview the creator or the guy that runs it or whatever.
I got to see that, like, it was like late November 2017 in Pittsburgh. That's where my first profile picture comes from, is me, the little elf ears and stuff in the white dress. My friend Laura and I went. She went in my car. That was a good experience.
That's amazing.
It was so good. We, like, cried. We were like, oh.
Yeah. For me,
there was a girl... Oh, sorry.
No, you can go.
There was a girl that I worked with at Nintendo, and she was actually one of the singers for it, which I thought was really interesting. Because I got into her car, and she was like, oh, I don't really have any music. And I was like, well, like, what's in your stereo right now? And she's like, I just have, like, the background music for all of the Zelda songs that I sing along to in the concert.
That's awesome.
Casually mention that. I sing.
Yeah.
For them.
I think when I went, I just tried to dress, like, semi-professionally because I was doing that interview. But I dragged my brother along to man the camera for it. And he's not really, like, a Zelda fan. But even the music is so good. Even he had a great time. Because just the music, the atmosphere, everything, like, he was totally pulled in. He had a great time with it. He loved it. Also, he got to go to a free concert. So I guess, there's that too.
True. I had people pull me aside and ask to get pictures.
I was
like,
happens.
this isn't even a good costume. They were like, you're supposed to be Goddess Hylia, right? Just because it was a white gown and I had elf hairs and my hair is blonde. And I was like, yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I was like, this is cool. There's random pictures of me on the internet now. And this was before I decided to do YouTube.
If we ever had the opportunity to go, like, interview again, I would 100% just dress up as Tingle, so be prepared.
Oh, yes. That's gotta happen.
Even
Please do.
It's completely unrelated to my channel. I did, like, the same email that I sent to the symphony people. There was another symphony that was touring around that was like a Harry Potter live concert where the movie would play.
Oh, nice.
But then a real orchestra would play the background music and stuff. And even though there's nothing about Harry Potter on the YouTube channel, they still gave me free tickets. So
Oh my god.
that was really nice. But anyways, I think with Skyward Sword, that's about it. Are you...
Okay.
No, wait. Earlier, Daniel, you mentioned that it was kind of easier or whatever. There is the spicy mode, which doesn't give you hearts.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, there's certain... Like, I played on Hero Mode on the Wii version, for example, right? So, like, that's not an issue. Just certain things that are easier, like the Bamboo Island, the clean cut minigame. I always had such a hard time with that in the Wii version. And I can obliterate that bamboo in this version using button controls. Like, it is... Like, it's ridiculous that, like, that they just didn't design that minigame with controls that, as weird as to say, with controls that accurate in mind. They clearly were designing it around someone swinging with their arm rather than their thumb, and just the speed at which you can slice through that bamboo is incredible with button controls. So, just saying, like, give it a try. I was recording footage for a video, and I needed to get an evil crystal for the video. So I was like, I'll just go to the bamboo minigame and get one, because you can get one from the prize if you get, like, between 20 to 27 cuts. And I kept accidentally going over while recording my footage because I was just cutting through it too fast. And I was like, shoot, I went over, and now I'll get a better prize, but I need this prize for the video. So
Captain Show Off over
like
here.
3 or 4 times. And I'm just saying, no, just like, it's a huge improvement to the controls. But I find even things like fighting the Stalfos, how they block, like, certain directions at a time, and they do this weird thing. Like, that's just so much easier to do now because it just is faster, because that's I was just cutting through it too fast. So that's what I find is easier about it, is just being accurate with your sword swings more quickly is a lot easier to do. And I think it's because, actually, if you're holding a Wii remote, I don't have a Wii remote, but actually it works the same for motion controls. If you want to swing left, let's say, you kind of have to wind up right and then swing left. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You kind of naturally wind to the right first. And I found a lot of times, if I was doing it too fast, the game would then swing the wrong way first and then if you have an enemy blocking, then it just rebounds off of it. And then you missed out, even though you technically swung the correct direction. Because the thumbstick just rests in a neutral position and then you just do it, there's not that wind up. And so you never swing the wrong way. So that's what I found. That's been my experience, at least. It's just far more accurate. There's no accidental whoopsies or anything with the gyro. Also, like RMFH is saying in the chat here, the pumpkin toss is even easier. I hated that mini game. That's also another thing. I have been vocal about this. I hated using the bow in Skyward Sword on the Wii. I always hated it. I felt it was slow and clunky and awkward. I had no issue with the bow in this version.
With the higher resolution, it's a lot easier to aim.
That too. There's a lot of things. I honestly never have been like a big graphics like powder. I don't know what the right term is, but I have never been the kind of person that's like, these superior graphics, I need my 60 frames per second and my super high resolutions. But playing Skyward Sword at 60 frames per second at 1080p has been a joy. I just the level of detail that's visible and like these are some of the videos I've been doing for Skyward Sword. The first videos I've been publishing in 60 frames per second, and they look gorgeous. And I'm just like, I'm coming to this idea that you know, like maybe I didn't know what I was missing before. So
maybe I should be a snob.
Maybe I should be a snob. I'm already a snob about coffee.
Connoisseur.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, so it's crystal clear. It's great. I think I think the art style, the distinctiveness of the art style, pops more with the better resolution. To be honest, like it stands out more, and a lot of the colors stand out more, and it's great. But I'm gonna stop talking because we got a super chat.
Oh, okay.
From Vernon, who donated $5. Thank you, Vernon. If you have a question or anything, it's a laughing pear. Thank you for that.
It is.
Anything you want to say, please let us know.
Yes, thank you. Are we ready to go to the second topic? About Pokemon?
Yeah, what do we...
All right.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we do, there's 3 things that I want to read off because in my last video, I mentioned for people to their thoughts on Zelda remakes or remasters and what they would like to see, and I would read a couple of them off on the podcast. So these are the 3 that I picked. The first comes from Shiloh, who says, I would honestly love the 3D Zelda games to come to the Switch, as finding older consoles is becoming harder and more expensive. Plus, with the new generation of gamers playing on the Switch, it would be a great way to get new players to these games, whereas the 2D Zelda games should go to the Virtual Console, unless they were to make full-on remakes to update bug fixes, resolution, and whatnot. I would gladly pay the online subscription to play my childhood, and I think parents would as well, to introduce their children to these games as well for the puzzle-solving skills and unique fantasy world. It's a dream and a hope. MJ has a long one. I'm only going to read the first paragraph, though, because we have a time limit on this episode. He says, I definitely want Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass to be remade so they can have a second chance. The things that I would want changed in both games would be to give them traditional controls, but give the choice to play with touch controls. I didn't mind the original game's controls. In fact, I actually found them to be quite fun to use. For Phantom Hourglass, I would change the overworld a little, mostly make it more full and less boring to go through, since that was people's biggest complaints. And the last one from Jeffrey says, I would like A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes ported over so Triforce Heroes could have better online co-op and a better single-player experience, like more hearts and stronger effects of the outfits, and they should add more to both games and extra dungeons. So, if anyone wants to comment below and let us know what remakes you would like to see coming up, we may read them in the next podcast. But we have Pokemon for now. There was talk about Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Legends Arceus. I've heard people pronounce it different ways. Nintendo
Arceus?
Yeah,
I say Arceus.
There's a new Nintendo Switch Pokemon edition. They had new stuff for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which is a very what's the word I'm looking for?
Divisive?
Yes.
Polarizing?
Very polarizing, because there's tons of people that's like, I love this game, it looks just like the original but better, and then there's people that's like, this game is stupid, it looks like the original but better.
I will say, since they, like, when they revealed it in, when was it, February, I think? Since then, what they showed today looked better. It looked like they've done some work polishing the game between now and then. And what they showed today looked like, when they showed it in February, I was like, I'm not gonna get it. But after watching the present, I was gonna say direct, the Pokemon Presents today, I was actually considering it. I was like, you know what, and I'm sure a lot of what's good about the game is probably just because the original was good, which I never played, but I hear a lot of people really like it. And so I'm sure that goodness is what's going to carry it through. But yeah, I think the visuals got a bit of a polish since back then. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. That's my blurb about Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Pokemon Remake.
They also talked about Pokemon Masters EX or X and Pokemon Go, but the greatest thing they showed off, like, it's right there with Breath of the Wild 2, is Pokemon Cafe Remix.
No!
Yes,
that's
right. Not good!
Did you guys see it?
No, I didn't watch the present.
I didn't pay much attention. There were only two things in the whole present that stuck with me.
Yeah, there was a lot of people talking about how in the Pokemon game coming out next year in January, I think, which is a really weird time to release a game. But anyways, there's a lot of people that were excited that the Pokemon, I almost said animals, that the Pokemon could, like, willingly attack you. So
yeah,
instead of you having to, like, go and touch them, or they just, like, randomly wander over to you, like, they'll actually charge at you and attack you.
Yeah,
they already do that in Sword and Shield.
But it's different. In Sword and Shield,
different.
They will come at you, and it will initiate, like, a Pokemon battle. In Legends, they will come at you and literally just murder you.
It's like
they will attack you.
Like
your
character.
They won't start a battle, and then you throw your Pokemon, and they'll attack the Pokemon, and then you fight, and maybe you'll catch it. No, they will just attack you.
Nice.
Without you throwing a Pokemon.
That's how it honestly
Your
should
character will, like, flash red and fall to the ground.
Yeah,
you will actually.
Like
they called it blacking out, but you know you're dead, right?
Think of it
They're like,
as
yeah, if you get hit too many times, you'll black out.
To me, it's
you
like
died.
The Lizalfos in Breath of the Wild, how they just, like, sneak up on you and attack you. It's basically like that, but it's Pokemon. And the other cool things they showed off is, which you can do in other Pokemon games, but you can get on your Pokemon to swim or fly or ride around and stuff. And a lot of people were comparing it to Breath of the Wild because the game sort of looks like it. They may have used the Breath of the Wild engine, or at least the style of it.
Big doubt.
There was talk about...
It has the open feel of Breath of the Wild.
Some of the sound effects in the game were also from Breath of the Wild. There were some people on Twitter talking about that. I think Joey from Game Explain had, like, retweeted something where it was like the same sound from Breath of the Wild was used in something that was in this trailer for this Pokemon game. But that's not a big deal. It's just, hey, this sounds like whatever it is in the game. So if we have that same thing in another game, we'll just use that same sound effect. But anyways, what was the thing?
I would just say I do have one massive gripe about one, like, not even a whole second of sound that I was like, are you kidding me? I only had one gripe.
Tell us.
It was the old Pokemon cry.
Oh yeah.
One of the
Are they
Pokemon's
still
cries
using-
was like a Game Boy cry, and I was like, "Are you serious?"
Okay.
This game is so
take
great
issue with
until that. Well, that's a little thing, but still.
No, I agree though. That's something that has bothered me with newer Pokemon games. Is like, you don't have to keep these chiptune sounding Pokemon noises, and for some reason they're clinging to using those. When the Pokemon can make better sound in Smash, they give them new voice clips, new sounds. You have the anime that gives them new voice clips. Why is it for the mainline Pokemon series and for Pokemon games
Like
in
half and
general,
half.
that they for most of the Pokemon they use these grating chiptune, just antiquated sounding bits for these animals. Like it breaks the immersion for me. Like when I was playing Sword and Shield, yeah, it's just like, a lot of the newer Pokemon have sounds that make sense, and then you have one of these OG Pokemons and they're like, and I'm like, what was that? You're a dog. You shouldn't sound like that.
So my
No
thoughts.
It makes no sense.
My thoughts.
It was
on
like
this.
half a millisecond that I just went, hold on. It was like the beaver looking one. You can tell I don't play a ton of
Bidoof.
Pokemon. And I like
Bidoof?
back off and Bidoof, thank you. And I think it was Bidoof. And I backed up and I was like, no, that wasn't there. And I was like, guys, you were making so much progress.
Yeah.
Geek,
Yeah.
you don't play Pokemon that much? The Pokemon company
No.
sent you a giant gift, and you don't play Pokemon?
I do love those. I watched the anime a lot, and I played Pokemon Yellow because I wanted Pikachu. And then I played Pokemon Snap and the new Snap, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. I loved those. I had Hey You Pikachu. Again, I watched the anime, and then I got Let's Go Pikachu, Shield. Yeah, I have the new Snap and stuff. I am really excited for Legends, though. Watching it, I was like, Pokemon, you're trying new things. This looks cool.
Yeah, I think
No, I agree.
the great thing that they're doing is so the people that love the nostalgia from Pokemon, they still get their traditional Pokemon game. In the remake, they're putting out Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But for people who want a new Pokemon experience, they have this other game, and they're only coming out like a few months away from each other. So it's like, no matter what you like, there's the Pokemon game for you. The last thing that I was going to say with the comparison to Breath of the Wild was there is a part where you're gliding or flying on the Pokemon, but he's using a hang glider like Link. So
Yes.
and then my thoughts on the 8-bit sound is obviously Nintendo or Pokemon does that just for the nostalgia from the people that played the original Pokemon games, but I think most of the Pokemon fans that are interested in Pokemon now weren't even alive when that
That's
game was
true.
on the Game Boy, so it wouldn't be nostalgia for them. So the same way that a lot of games have like Japanese, English, German, all the different languages, French, they could do that with the Pokemon, to where it's like you can switch between the 8-bit sounds and the normal sounds. And I think that would, since they already do it for people, they could do it for Pokemon. And it's not like someone has to come in to record all those sounds because they have them already from the anime or other games. So why not do it?
Yeah, the thing that's a good point though. Like, kids love Pokemon, and they're my son is all into Pokemon. He was not around in the 90s to play Pokemon Red and Blue.
Are you sure?
Right. That's I honestly
It could be a time
as much
traveler.
as like as many of us adult Pokemon fans as there are out there. There are way more kids who are into Pokemon than there are adults. That's just how it is. That's just how Pokemon is and how they market their games. And yeah, I feel like doing something like that, like using those Pokemon cries, those 8-bit ones, is not a very well. First of all, the sounds aren't that great to listen to. They sound annoying. They all sound bad. Every single one of them sounds terrible. But
What about Ryan
and the ones
Reynolds?
obviously that are important, like Pikachu, they give Pikachu an updated voice clip because Pikachu is an icon and it's whatever. And it can you imagine though if other games did that? Like if in Breath of the Wild, Link hit an enemy and it still made the same sound as it did on Zelda on the NES. Like it would sound out of place. Like it's an immersion breaker, and you can do nostalgic things like that right, and have it work. And Mario Odyssey does that. Mario Odyssey has a lot of little nostalgia, whether it's little sound effects or just little pictures or visual flares that totally just pander to nostalgia, but it's done well and it fits the context, and it's not an immersion breaker. So I don't know, just like for me it feels like laziness, like they're just not trying to update it, they just don't want to bother, or that's just how it comes across to me.
Yeah.
The one thing that I consider when I think about that is, yes, it does feel really, really lazy, and I get it, but on the other hand, we're talking about Pokemon with an ever-growing Pokedex. Like, we're at almost 1,000 Pokemon, right? Can you imagine?
They have the budget for it, though.
I mean, they absolutely do, which is why I would chalk it up to them probably being lazy, and because they've been getting away with, kind of rehashing old ideas.
Pokemon is actually one of the top, most profitable IPs in the world.
From merchandise, I think, right?
Because they have everything. So it's like they're in the top 5 every year.
So Chuba, is what you're saying like that? Just that we've been letting them get away with it for too long? Is that your point?
Oh, well, that's what it comes down to ultimately. Is that there's a really good chance that maybe we're voicing our opinions and we don't like that this is happening, but there's also a really good chance that they're not listening to what the opinions are of Pokemon players, because I feel like that's been a common theme, and I hear that often from really big Pokemon fans. Is that the Pokemon company doesn't listen to what people actually want, which makes sense. You can't really listen to what people want, but I think that's what it comes down to, is that the Pokemon company very much does things in a way that they feel is right, and they're not, in my experience and my knowledge, they've not always been the best at picking up constructive criticism and working with it.
Yeah,
that's true. Legend seems like to be the first time they're trying to take a step out. It's like people have been asking for something different like this for a long time, so maybe there's finally hope that they'll listen.
I'm hoping it'll have
and that's
multiplayer.
kind of why I'm that would be nice, because Sword and Shield did not. It was not. I would just say don't even try, because it was pretty but
they have new servers.
I am feeling cautiously optimistic about Legends, because it really feels like this game is like the push for Game Freak and for Pokemon Company to do something actually new and innovative, and not just more of the same that they've been doing for 25 years. Like, this seems like to me that the push for them to really innovate with their gameplay.
Yeah, well, the past few years they've been doing weird stuff. Like, they had the Pokemon Let's Go remakes, or whatever you want to call them, which was more of Pokemon Go mixed with the original. And then they had that demo called Town. I don't know what the final name of it was, but they created a brand new thing, and now they have...
but that wasn't Pokemon.
Yeah, right. But it's just them experimenting with different gameplay styles and stuff. And now they have this, and it's a lot of people expected a second Let's Go game to come a couple of years later, but instead we get this. So I wonder if it ends up being just a one-off, and this is the only one that they do like this, or if they'll put a sequel in it. But I like the idea in this game that you are the one going around and you're completing the Pokedex, because it just doesn't exist, so you're making the first one. So it,
I like that concept. Yeah. And I'm not, especially replaying Skyward Sword lately, kind of saying connecting back to that, having just throwing any game into an open world doesn't necessarily make it a good game, right? Because you have to have things to do in that open world, and I think that's a lot of people's concerns are They're like, well, it looks big and empty though, and there's not gonna be anything to do. And I totally hear that, because yeah, like the open world is only as good as what you put in it, for the player to do. But I don't know, like I'm feeling, I'm like, so that's the cautious part of my cautious optimism, is from what they've shown with the gameplay today, especially. I feel almost like a little more reassured about it. I think there's some visual things they could do to polish it up some more, because I feel like not to compare it to Breath of the Wild too much, because everyone's doing that. But that game, Breath of the Wild, set kind of a bar for what Switch is capable of, like, and what kind of graphics this console is capable of running. And you look at some of the like foliage and stuff, like some of it looks really good, and then you see some shots that look like weirdly just like untextured almost. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting. But I think there's some really interesting art direction in some of the visuals. I'm hoping that they're taking time to polish it up a little bit more before release. But I'm not going to be the person that's going to be like, but the trees look bad. The tree bark.
I've also seen some people talking about Pokemon Legends is going to end up being like really bad on release and need a bunch of updates and patches, because they believe that the team is split and half is like working on Legends and the other half is working on the remake, which isn't the case. I think the main Pokemon team is working on Legends, and then they have a third party that's working on the remake. So the team isn't working on two different games. Like, so, like, I've seen a bunch of people saying that. I wanted to clear it up in case any of them watched the video. You can just go to Wikipedia and type in the name of the game, and you can find out that who actually developed it. But anyways, does anyone else have anything to go on with the Pokemon stuff?
Well, you go first, Tubes.
Oh, okay. The only thing that I'm kind of curious about, and it's not something that I would personally ever care about, but there's a huge competitive scene in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I'm mostly curious as to if they're planning on incorporating that into Legends at all, and how that's going to end up playing out. Because this is an entire segment of Pokemon that I've never gotten into before, but it's something that, like, my boyfriend, he's a Discord gym leader for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And it's basically like people like breed all of these teams and do their EV training. And so I'm curious if when they move into Legends, if they're going to try and pull a lot of that with them, because Sword and Shield has a surprising amount of activity going on in it still, because it's like it's the game that keeps giving. There's so much that you can do with it after you beat it and after you do the DLC. So I'm very interested to see how they're gonna try and pull a lot of those players over to something so new and different from Pokemon.
That is very interesting. So Daniel mentioned the empty overworld and having something to do. I believe instead of finding all 900 Koroks, you're going to be finding 900 Pokemon. But they're just not
for sure. There's going
to. I think
that's going to be a big thing, though. Is it might seem like empty, but I think, I don't know, like the wild area in Sword and Shield almost feels like a prototype to this now in hindsight.
Yeah.
And I found the wild area to really be the best part of Sword and Shield. The gym battles were really great, mostly because the music was like really fun, and there's this, you get really into this whole atmosphere with it. But the wild area was kind of my favorite part of Sword and Shield, and it was always jarring going from like the traditional routes, after like you go through the wild area and then you go to a town and then you have these traditional Pokemon routes, and there's like this really disjointed feeling. And I almost feel like maybe they were just like testing the waters to see how people liked the openness of it.
They were, because the multiplayer they have in the game is like
atrocious.
It's like a slightly advanced version of the multiplayer that was in Let's Go.
Right.
Like the character had to stay beside you or like in the same general area, but it wasn't online. And then in the next one they improved it to where it was online, and I'm hoping for this one they do the same thing, because it seems like every Pokemon game like this that they've released has had some form of online multiplayer that's not just battling, but the characters are actually with you. So I think that would be really cool if they could do that.
But
And I think
if
will.
if they just hold in on making this like an amazing single player experience and not have a lot of multiplayer, I know that's not what a lot of people are looking for, but I feel like I would almost prefer that. Like I would be totally. I don't play Pokemon. I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, but I don't play it to like play online. That's just not what I'm in it for personally. So if they just honed in on making this an amazing single player experience, I'd be all over that. I don't know. I don't play that many multiplayer games online though in general.
Me
so
either.
yeah.
The last thing that I seen was I think it was in Legends, was where when you're battling, you have like two modes. One to like just damage the Pokemon a little bit so you can catch it, and then there's like a second level to where you can do stronger attacks to black out the Pokemon. So I think that's
there's like the
really
strong
interesting
and
that they give you
style.
they give you two different attack things. So I thought that was kind of cool because there's always those moments when there's a rare Pokemon and you have to get its health really low to catch it, but then you kill it. So you have to restart the save file. So the fact that they're adding in
the game
these...
says it faints, but if it fainted, you'd be able to catch it, right? So
Yeah.
let's be honest, we've been murdering the Pokemon all these years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there wasn't gyms, and like this was before gyms. So what do you think
Probably.
I don't know, like, I wonder what the actual mission or story is. Like, aside from going out and catching all the Pokemon and documenting it. Like,
Well, it seemed like there was something weird that happened in that last trailer that made some of the Pokemon seem evil. So,
yeah.
like something that possessed them. So it's like there's probably some sort of battle we have to wage there.
It's the
But something
calamity
I thought
for them.
about, based on something Daniel had said that I had never considered, that it is mostly children that play Pokemon. I mean, Ash is always 10 years old. And I'm thinking about it now, Pokemon is not something that's really grown with its original audience. I mean, it was never meant to be a game played by adults, whereas things like Legend of Zelda and such, and plenty of other game series, how lend way to still being fun as adults, figuring out this, even if we can figure it out quicker. We're invested in the story. There's deep stories there. Where as a kid, you're like, I just want to finish. This is pretty cool. Also, Dead Hand is giving me nightmares. But then as an adult, you're like, whoa, this is deep. This is crazy. Even Mario, to some degree. Mario somehow has very much succeeded with, this is a kid's nostalgia, but also it's just really good. But I think Daniel has a point that they can get away with not evolving the series as much because they are rehashing the same thing because it isn't meant to really grow with us. And that's why so many people say they grew out of Pokemon. I still enjoy some aspects of it, but I'm not going into it expecting it to be the next new Zelda game, the next new Mario game or anything like that, which is kind of sad. We should demand more of them, I guess, but I guess that was also never their intent. It was always meant to be for 10-year-olds, but I also have no shame playing it, but I'm still excited for Legends. I'm glad they're doing something different. Also, completely petty note, no, I'm not getting Diamond and Pearl because it's all random encounters. And I hate random encounters. I hate them.
Actually, speaking of random encounters, that's a good point. Is I'm with you there. I hate random encounters. It feels like something that's a relic of an age gone by and a total unnecessary gameplay mechanic in general. And
I know it's probably for people who played the OG and they're excited to get the remake.
Sure.
But I'm like,
Sure.
being petty, not going to get it just because of that. I just don't like random encounters.
But that's one thing in Legends that I'm kind of looking forward to is the fact that the Pokemon are just like out there, you know, doing their thing, and that's kind of more immersive in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is to be able to like sneak around and see where they all are, and they're just like living their Pokemon lives and doing their thing, right? And yeah, and like that's something I liked about Pokemon Snap as well, is because it pulls you into it more, like because it makes them feel like actual living creatures in this world, right? Whereas like random encounter is just like it's such an RPG thing that it's just like, oh, bad guy, hit him and then move on and grind your XP. And, and that's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Earthbound on the Super Nintendo didn't do random encounters, and was a very great, amazing RPG. And although I'm super biased towards that game because I love it, but then even like the Let's Go games, that was something I loved about them, was that they didn't have those random encounters. The Pokemon were visible in the world, and so if you were looking for a particular type of Pokemon, you don't have to just grind through all these battles because you can just like walking back and forth in tall grass because you don't know what's going to show up. You can actually just like look for the one and avoid the other ones that you don't actually care about and want, and just go for that one. And so I don't know,
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you look at it, because I can concede that in Let's Go it does come across as way too easy, but it depends on, it's like, I would rather have way too easy than do a grind, where some people would say, no, that's the OG experience because they grew up with it. I mean, my brother, he will die on the hill of random encounters is way better. And that's fine if that's how he wants to play. That's why I like Sword and Shield, because I was like, some of it's random encounters and I can avoid it. But I do see a lot of them. I see both sides of it, and I just err on the side of it's an archaic thing that we don't need to have if I want to immerse myself in the world. But you and I are big story people, too.
True.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just trying to complete my Pokedex. It's going to be really hard if I have random encounters.
It is, right? Like, you miss that one Pokemon, and then you keep getting frickin' Pidgeys, and you're like, dang it, like, what are you even doing in the grass? You're a bird.
I don't want another Rattata.
Yeah, exactly. But it's honestly, like, random encounters are like what a lot of people don't like about Skyward Sword. You're moving along, and then your gameplay grinds to screeching halt so that a bunch of text can pop up, right? That's what people hated about Phi in Skyward Sword in the original version. That's what random encounters are, though. Except that's all the combat that you get. So it's I don't know. Like I think it's such a, like you said, archaic sort of trope gameplay thing.
It was born out of necessity and the fact that they didn't have the ability on a Game Boy to do that. So I always understood it. I never faulted Pokemon Red and Yellow for that, because I was like, what else could they do? But in the world of now, I'm like, no thanks. Can we not? And I get it. I have a friend who's been on my channel before that she hates being able to see them in the overworld, and she'll say exactly what I'm saying, which is it's nostalgia. She knows why she prefers random encounter, because that's what she grew up playing. She's like, no, I get what you're saying. I just prefer it. And I'm like, as long as we can agree why we disagree.
That's fair.
Fair. Facts. Okay. Jesse wants us to do questions.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because I think we got about 20 minutes left. But really quick, I wanted to say, you and Daniel mentioning Pokemon and other games or whatever being made for kids. Some people might get mad at that because they're like, no, because I'm an adult and I struggle with it. It's not made for kids. It's made.
I struggle with it too.
So,
yeah,
this is something that they actually do in their playtesting. Is they will have adults, like from all ages, but they'll also have little kids. And if the kids think something in the game is too hard, and it's like 3 or 4 of the kids all think that that one thing is hard, they'll go in and change it to make it easier for the kids, because they don't want the game, they want it to be challenging but not so difficult that the kid will just stop playing it. So they actually do, whenever they make Breath of the Wild or Pokemon and all these games, they literally develop it to be easy for little kids. Like the little kids they have might be insanely amazing at video games.
Like Daniel's kid?
Yeah. Or they could be...
He's not the best example.
So like, everyone talks about the water temple in Ocarina of Time being so difficult. And it's like, it was literally designed and developed for kids, little kids, to be able to do it. So... like that was the weird.
And yet here we are.
But I still love it. But
but I'm not good at games, so.
We have our Zelda mailbag now to answer some questions. Choobs, you started whenever I said, does anyone else have anything left to talk about Pokemon, and you started talking, and then I think Daniel started talking. Did you finish?
Oh no, I already said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already said my part. I think I was just talking about the competitive scene.
All right, awesome. There's the first question that I was going to start with. If I can find it.
Probably Patreon supporter. I see that Natsu, and who is Nodnarb.
Oh, also, Jesse, while you're getting that, I remember, I think on the last podcast, someone said that they had left us a iTunes review as well.
Ooh, yay.
But I couldn't find it because maybe I'm not able to view iTunes reviews on my...
I don't have an iPhone.
I don't know. But I thought I would mention it in case you need to dig it up.
Jesse dead.
No, there was a specific question.
Looking through the questions.
I know what the question is, but I don't want to say it without the person's name. Well, if I find it, I'll give them credit later. But it was basically, they're talking about how there's all the Zelda rumors that are out right now, and they really wanted, I think it was like a Twilight Princess and Wind Waker bundle or whatever, because of that rumor that was going around. And they asked us which games that we would like to see remade or ported to the Switch. And if anyone watched the video that I made recently talking about, it goes over interviews and stuff with Grezzo and the other developers, and they talk about how long it took them to make the remake. And for like Wind Waker, it was a small team that left the Breath of the Wild game to make Wind Waker, and they did it in less than 6 months. And that was them learning how to develop with this new engine and learning how to develop in HD on this new console that they had no experience with. And they were able to do all of that in just 6 months. And then there was another one where it was talking about porting a game over. And we had an email a long time ago that said the same thing, but if the game's already remastered or something, then it can take anywhere from 1 month to 3 months, depending on how big the game is, to actually port the game over. So for like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, that's already on the Wii U, and this is probably the reason why we got so many Wii U ports to the Switch, is because it only takes that team like a month or 3 months to do it. So why not work on porting this game for a month and then resell it and get like millions of copies sold? So it kind of makes sense from the business standpoint. But with that, there was also a rumor that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were already remade, but just being held off for the right time. Which when I first seen it, I didn't believe that. But then after I went through the research for the video that I just posted, because it was originally supposed to be like, if Nintendo is working on Ocarina of Time HD, or if they do, how long would it take? That was the original idea for the video. But then I went to cover all the different games. And if it did, or if it does take Nintendo like less than 6 months to create the game, then I would say it wouldn't take them a month or two to actually port the game over, since they've already got a bunch of experience with that. And so they could have at one point ported it and then just saving it for release. Like, we covered that interview where they were talking about A Link to the Past, Daniel, where they said the game's already done, they're just waiting on this other game to release. Yeah, and they were like, the game's done, but it's not going to release until next year. And it's like, why are you holding it for a year if it's done? But anyways, with that question and the parts that I added, what kind of remake or remaster or game would you like to see come over from other consoles to the Switch? Choobs, you want to start?
What?
Would it be all right if I started? Because I actually have to leave
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
So are you asking what Zelda games we want to see come to the Switch?
Basically, yeah. That was the short version of the question.
All of the 3D games, but not the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, except for equipping of the boots. Everything else needs to remain the same. I want to play the Oracle games, so make those like Link's Awakening and Spirit Tracks, because the music is amazing. There was your fast-tracked answer.
That's a big ask.
All right. And good answer.
I know. I want all of it.
And people
One
can,
of those options would be great.
So people can find your YouTube channel at The Geek Apprentice.
Yes.
There
The
should
Geek
be
Apprentice.
a link down in the description. I seen someone in the comments earlier called the Zelda Apprentice.
Zelda
Geek Apprentice, and it threw me off because someone referred to them as geek, and I was like, well,
Yeah. So anyways, thank you for coming on, Geek.
Yay.
And everyone should go and check out her stuff because she's streaming through Skyward Sword HD, and she has some other great videos to watch. So yeah, thank you, Geek. And yeah, I guess we'll talk to you later.
yeah. Hopefully, I'll be on the next podcast to make it 3 in a row. That'd be amazing. All right.
That would be.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Vernon
And
Hardapple
we got
donates $5 with another. It's a working out pair and says,
it up.
"Keep it up."
Nice.
Also
Thank you,
asked
Vernon.
Skeek not to go, but she's already gone. Anyways,
Too late.
so the reason why I said what when you asked me to answer
Yeah.
is because we answer this question so many times.
I know.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess is what you want?
Yep. That's it. That's all. Also that Tingle game. I would play Tingle's Rupee Paradise.
When you said
I
Tingle,
forgot. I don't remember.
I keep thinking of that horror Tingle game. So, the one that got
That
canceled.
game, you can't have a remake of it because it never came to be.
We could uncancel it.
No, like anytime someone mentions Tingle, like I just imagine what the heck that game could have been as a horror game. But anyways, our first, well not first, but our next mailbag question comes from Patreon. If you are a Patreon supporter, then when you give us a topic or a question to talk about, it's guaranteed to be the first ones that we do. So you can be a Patreon, or you can just super chat and give a question. We're going to do 2 or 3 more of these. So Natsu says, mailbag with Bill Trinan, good old Bill Trinan. We were like
Good old Bill.
2 feet away from
Didn't
him.
take a photo with me.
Yeah. I think as we start
Sorry.
to show a bit more of the game over the coming months to the next year or so, it'll probably start to be a bit more apparent where this game stands on its own and what makes it so unique. In an interview after, around, or during E3, and with the rumors of a September Direct, do you think it's too optimistic, assuming the Direct happens, for fans to go into it expecting even a tiny bit of info?
I think that's reasonable. I've been saying for months I think we're gonna get more info in September.
Yeah.
And as September approaches, I'm starting to get nervous about being wrong about that.
So-
but
To
I'm just
shorten the Bill Trinan quote, he's basically saying they are going, over the course of the year, they'll be showing more and more Breath of the Wild 2, and as they show more of it, the story will become more apparent and clear to everyone. So
yeah.
I don't know if they're like, there's been a September Direct for like the past several years, which is why people are saying that. But there's also a chance that at the Game Awards they do something, because they had that Breath of the Wild DLC appear there. And Nintendo always does a bunch of random stuff at the Game Awards.
They didn't really last year, but last year was... You can't compare anything to last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But think about this, is... It's not uncommon for this to happen, but we just had an Indie World, and then we just had a Pokemon Presents. And it's very common that we'll get sort of those as sort of a 1-2 punch. We'll get those three things in a row. It's very common to get an Indie World and a Pokemon Presents, or either of those, or of those, shortly before Direct.
Mm-hmm.
It's and we just had both of them, so I feel like they're gonna have something, maybe some new games announced for the holiday. They're probably going to show more Metroid Dread stuff, because they'll be like, Metroid Dread releases next month. Get hyped for it, because they've been promoting it on their Twitter like a lot. I've never seen Nintendo go this hard on Metroid before, which I love it. But I'm sticking to my guns. I've been saying it pretty much since the beginning of the year. I really think we're going to get a lot more Zelda stuff in September. I've been saying late August or September, but I'm gonna.
But Daniel,
probably say
Aonuma
September,
said there's nothing for the rest of the year, and
we've had this conversation before.
Nintendo never lies.
No, because they want to keep things a surprise. That's all it is, right? So, yeah, I don't think it's too much or I don't think it's unreasonable to be optimistic and to hold out for that.
And I think September is long enough for them to get away from that Skyward Sword gatekeeping, to where like they're just putting all focus on Skyward Sword because how poor the original was received. So now that they have the remake, which apparently in a month has outsold or sold almost double of what the original did in its entire lifetime, then obviously Skyward Sword was a success this time. And so I think now that they know it's a success, it sold well, the Joy-Cons sold well, the amiibos sold well, because you can't buy them anywhere. So yeah, I think it did good enough to where Nintendo now they won't be worried about Skyward Sword and holding off the other stuff. So I think since there has been a September Direct for like every year the past few years, which is something someone said, I probably need to fact check that, but it sounds right. Anyways, because they usually do one to show off the holiday games and everything. So I think if it either at the Direct or the Game Awards, I think we will see something Zelda related, and I think we'll get more on Breath of the Wild too as well.
I could not get a word out there for some reason. I think we're going to get the subtitle. I think we're going to get the subtitle or the name reveal.
It'll be like Metroid Prime 4 when they showed off the logo.
No, like I think they're going to tell us what the game is titled, and before the end of the year. That's what I believe. I could be wrong.
I think that we're going to get...
knows.
I think we're going to get something, because we still didn't really get anything for the anniversary, right? So
true. There's going to be more than that Game & Watch.
Yeah, they're holding off. As Jesse said, Skyward Sword, it's already hit the milestone that they wanted it to hit, so... September, we're watching you.
I have no doubt that they're pleased as punch at Skyward Sword's performance, because...
It's all because of Groose.
I think we're fighting on. Absolutely. They did well to market it this time, though, I think. And
what?
But we know that they have a subtitle for the game picked out. We know that Bill Trinan knows the title of the game.
Yeah, so it would be a spoiler if he said something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
I think we'll get a story trailer, and then the name reveal at the end, and maybe a release date.
I don't think the title is really that big of a spoiler, because if you think of past games, like usually they name it after something important in the game. But if you just out of context, like Ocarina of Time, what does that mean? Phantom Hourglass, what does that mean? Like Skyward Sword. With the title Skyward Sword, in an interview with Aonuma, he said when whoever it was that came up with the title and told him that it was going to be called Skyward Sword, Aonuma had no idea what he meant. And the guy had to explain the title to Aonuma. And then Aonuma was like, okay. So, yeah. Titles could be weird.
Unless there's a character's name in it that, like you put it, like Twilight Princess is kind of a bad example because it's a bit vague, but that there is a Twilight Princess in the game. But that's sort of my thought, is maybe they're like, for it to actually be a spoiler, there's got to be something familiar about it where we're gonna see the subtitle and we're gonna be like, that means so and so, or that means this thing is back, or you know what I mean? Because if it's a new thing, like you said, like say Wind Waker when it was coming out, if they were like, the new Zelda game's called the Wind Waker, you're gonna be like, what the heck does that mean? Right? Like, what's a Wind Waker? Why is the wind asleep? Who's doing that? So, but if they're saying that the title is a spoiler for the story of the game or what the game's about, and they're not ready to tell us that yet for that reason, it makes me think there's something familiar, something that we as fans would recognize from that title, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my words, character's name or something.
So do you want to take Nodnarb's question?
Nodnarb?
Or Choops?
Nodnarb.
I think his name
Choops,
is Brandon, but he puts it backwards as a username. So that's Nodnarb.
Oh! Oh!
This is how long it's been since we've done a podcast. Because that question, it says it's from July 12th. So like,
well, our last podcast was on the 7th of July. What do you want to do about it?
Yeah. So like, that's how crazy it is. Anyways, one of you guys want to take it?
Go ahead.
All right. Nodnarb.
Nodnarb.
If Zelda were made to be fully playable, how well do you think Nintendo could incorporate both characters equally while maintaining the same open-world freedom we had in Breath of the Wild? Assuming Breath of the Wild 2, or another future game in the franchise, remains completely open-world, what do you think of Nintendo taking a GTA 5 approach? Meaning at any time, you can leave the action of whatever Link is doing, zoom out into the sky, and then zoom back into where Zelda currently is. Maybe she's riding her horse through Hyrule Field or exploring some ruins. Do you think they could pull something like this off in a Zelda game?
So like, the better example I can think of is when you're playing like the Lego games and you can like quickly switch back and forth between the characters.
Yeah,
I think that's a better example.
Yeah, but like even then, like I don't think that's totally feasible for like an actual like Legend of Zelda game. I just think about like other games that have done something similar to that and how it feels very clunky. It doesn't really add to the story unless for whatever reason you're doing what are those stupid quests called where you're like having to save someone. Basically all of Resident Evil 4.
Escort mission.
Escort missions, yeah, exactly. So like the only way it would work is if you were doing something escort mission type.
Yeah.
But hey, Resident Evil 4 did it well, I think. Honestly, like Ashley is very good in that game.
Yeah.
She ducks out of the way so you don't shoot her. She'll go hide in like a dumpster and wait for the action to die down. And just when you've had enough, she gets kidnapped again, so she's out of your way. You know, like it's done very well in that game, honestly.
Nintendo has actually done something like this before with Wind Waker, when you have those escort missions where like the character tags along and you can play the song.
Point I was going to bring up.
Yeah, you can play the song to switch between the characters. When you switch, the character doesn't continue doing stuff. They just follow you or stand still or whatever. But it's a similar thing, but just in a dungeon as opposed to the overworld. So could they do it? Yeah, it would be really, really easy for them to put that function in the game. But it would depend on if they felt that it benefited the game or made it more fun or whatever. I do think it's going to have multiplayer, based on the 1,000 interviews Aonuma has, where he keeps saying that he wants to make a multiplayer Zelda game. So
right.
Yeah, and they just updated their online servers, so I think it's all coming together.
I think what I would really like, though, if we're doing Playable Zelda, is it to be in very scripted, puzzle-centric sort of ways, where,
like the cafe
honestly,
quest
there would be no... Sure, yeah, like that, where it's a very scripted section in Majora's Mask, where you basically run into a room, you do a thing, and then it switches to the other character, runs into the room, does a thing. Or like you said, Wind Waker, which I recently played through, so it's very fresh in my mind. That game handled escort mission really well as well. The characters are really good about just like staying. Well, Medley is really good about staying behind and staying close and all that. Makara is a little bit more clunky to have, but that game handles it pretty well. And having it just sort of in the dungeon. Otherwise, well, like if you have them with you, but you don't go in the dungeon, they just sit in the boat and they wait. And that's fine. But so you could even just have Zelda like wait at the horse or whatever, and then you go in a dungeon together, and then there's some puzzles where you've got to have her go and do something, hold down a switch, or you hold down a switch and she can go and do a thing, or things like that. But like I think there's some really good potential for it. But if you just have it just in the open world, it almost feels pointless.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like what you have to have a actually fun and engaging use for having these two characters be playable outside of novelty. Spirit Tracks actually is a good example. Spirit Tracks does Playable Zelda very well in that even though she's a ghost in that game, she takes control of the phantoms, and then you can, and it's only in the dungeons. Otherwise, she just like talks to you like she's like your companion, like Navi, right? But then in those dungeons, you can swap between Link and Zelda and have her do things, and she has abilities that Link doesn't have because the Phantom suit is like super heavy, so she can hold down switches Link can't, or she can pick and throw Link up over and stuff. So you need to have sort of the level design built around it in a way. It can't just be novelty. That's my take.
The other thing that I was thinking as far as it goes for Breath of the Wild 2 is so far we don't know what happens to Zelda. Like,
that's true.
We don't know if she's going to be present for the game. We don't know where she ends up being, because all we've seen of her so far is that she fell.
Yeah, and they even tease, like, in one trailer, they make it seem like she just falls and gets trapped or doomed or whatever happens to her. But in the other trailer, they have Link's hand catching her. And that could be an earlier point where Link catches her. Or it could be when she's falling this time. So it's like they kind of tease, like, does she fall or does she get caught? Who knows? So.
But that's a good point. It's like we don't know if she's going to be playable or with us. I guess the question is if she were playable. But I kind of am leaning towards her not being, because in the trailer that we got at E3, there was no indication of that to me in that trailer. We only saw Link doing Link things in the sky and on the ground.
Yeah.
Half naked and fully clothed, you know.
There was there was interviews.
Link things.
I think there was one with Aonuma, but most of them were from Fujibayashi, where he said that in Breath of the Wild they experimented or whatever with the idea of having Zelda be playable in Breath of the Wild, which probably would have given it a completely different story, because in Breath of the Wild, Zelda, you don't see Zelda until the very end. So whatever change they made was obviously a major one, but I don't think... So you go through all of Breath of the Wild to save Hyrule and save Zelda, and then it's like you start the next game and you're like, oh yeah, Zelda's saved now, blah blah blah, and then she just gets trapped again And it's like, come
that
on,
poor
Zelda.
castle.
You have the Triforce of Wisdom. What's wrong with you? But yeah, there's all the old interviews where they talk about how they wanted a game in the Breath of the Wild engine, but having online multiplayer. And there's the very first thing that 𝐓𝐼𝐢 said about Zelda Wii U before it was titled Breath of the Wild was that he didn't want you to think of it as a single player game. And then the game comes out and it's completely single player. But I think the Wolf Link being summoned in may have originally been designed for a second player to control it with a second controller. That way the multiplayer could be completely optional, just as Wolf Link is already completely optional. But if you want a friend to help you find apples or whatever the wolf does, then they can do that.
See, something that I think in regards to like not thinking of it as like a single player game is that Nintendo's entire motto is based around playing together, right? So I don't think it was necessarily like, here, it's going to be a multiplayer game. I think it was more of this is a storyline that's meant to be shared.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I read it, because I think about me, like, for streamers. We play video games, it's not a single player experience. I'm playing it by myself, but I'm sharing the story with other people. But that's probably me just reading too far into it and thinking about how Nintendo likes to word things.
Well, no, you're right.
Good
because
perspective. You worked there, so I mean, like, yeah.
There's what was it? With Breath of the Wild, I think you're right in what you said, because with Breath of the Wild, everyone's progression through it is different. Like someone might get completely different armor than someone else, and then they don't discover an area until like the very end of the game, or they don't discover like Zora's domain until like close to the end of the game. So like what they're doing and what you're doing, the path you're walking through Hyrule and everything is completely different. So yeah, like you can meet Sidon outside of Hyrule, and he's like up on the tower, I think. Or no, you get on the tower and then he's down at the bottom. And then you can, if you don't meet him there, you can meet him at the bridge or something like that. So there's multiple places where you can have that first meeting with Sidon. And even with the old man and the sweater that you get, you can either complete the one dungeon and get it that's in the snow, or you can cook him the pig fish thing that he wants, the spicy thing, and then he'll give it to you. So like even at the very beginning of the game, you can have two completely different experiences, because you can cook the meal, get the sweater, and then making it to that last shrine is a lot easier. But if you don't get the sweater, then you make it all the way up to the shrine with your health depleting, and then you get the sweater. So even at the very beginning, you can have completely different things. So that does sound right, what Choobs was saying. I never thought of that. Good job, Choobs.
Another thought was, I mean, when he was saying about the development, and he had all these mission statements about not wanting to be single-player experience or whatever. Again, Choobs is probably right here. But my thought when he said that, and then we got Breath of the Wild, was that he did really want to make a multiplayer game, but it just didn't end up working for Breath of the Wild, so they made Triforce Heroes instead. That's always what my opinion has been. But he's like, yeah, I want to make a multiplayer Zelda game, but it just doesn't fit in this game, so we'll just make a whole game about it. But
what it is, I think 𝐓𝐼𝐢 just really wants to make an online multiplayer Zelda game that's in 3D. Like that's the one thing that he's always saying that he wants to make. But I think it's like he gets the idea, he pitches it to whoever's above him at Nintendo, and they're just like,
no.
Yeah, and they're just like, no, don't do that. They don't sell well. Make a traditional Zelda game or something. And then it's like every time he finishes a game, he's like going back to the president of Nintendo and like, so can I do the multiplayer game now? So I think that's what it is. Like he just keeps being told no. So in interviews, he just keeps saying like, I want to make a multiplayer Zelda game, but Nintendo won't let me.
They won't let me.
Yeah. Do you want to pick out another question? We'll do 2 more questions. You can pick them out from the list, or if anyone has questions in the live chat, you can...
I pulled a question from the live chat, actually.
All right.
I wasn't really paying attention to other ones, but I saw this one come up. Zelda's Geek Apprentice asked, what do you think about the theory that Ganon was the original hero in Breath of the Wild and that he was taken over by the Calamity and that's why the scroll was made?
That's perfect for Daniel.
No.
All right.
Yes.
You have your answer.
There is no reason to believe that Ganondorf was ever the hero, aside from on the Tapestry, the hero show in there had red hair.
In Age
But
of Calamity,
everyone on that Tapestry has red hair except for the princess showing who's blonde. Because it's an incredibly unrealistic and heavily stylized piece of art that it, honestly, like, everybody's faces are made up of swirls too. That sure doesn't sound like Link and Zelda, does it? No. Like,
So, if Ganon and Link both have red hair, does that mean that they're related?
obviously, no. It's
A Link to the
there's
A Link to the Past.
I don't know. Well, that was a technological limitation.
Yeah.
He has sort of a strawberry blonde hair in the actual official artwork. So,
So my thought is, in Age of Calamity, I think towards the beginning of the game, it like zooms in on that map, and then like Link on the, I keep calling it a map, but the tapestry, it zooms in on it, and it shows the Link figure, and then he starts moving, and it actually turns into Link. So I think that on its own, as well as Nintendo, I'm pretty sure they've called him Link, and like, not in an interview or anything, but with releasing artwork and concept art and stuff. I think I've seen one where it said like Link right beside it. Like earlier today or yesterday, I was showing Daniel like the first 12 bosses that was meant for Ocarina of Time.
right.
Like before they started the game, and it was completely different from the bosses that we got. There's one that looked really
I was thinking,
cool.
I think I have the tapestry artwork because someone was saying that there's a beard in it. That the character has a beard, and I don't think it does. And I was thinking, I think I have the tapestry artwork, but it's a map actually that I've got there. But let me see here. I'm pretty sure there's no beard.
Here's a quick
I'm pretty sure it's just a
question.
weird swirly artwork.
For Daniel.
And I'm pulling it on the Google.
Matt Fry, so do you think the Metroid Prime trilogy will come to the Switch?
Well, gosh, I'd love that.
In everyone's wildest wet dreams, probably. Sorry. I was
probably.
so well behaved. I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good.
No, you're fine.
I
I just unplugged my phone. I would love that. I was just playing through Metroid Prime earlier today, actually. I also streamed it, but I was playing through some of the game earlier today, and yeah, put that on Switch, honestly. I was thinking, like, the visuals hold up pretty well. They don't have to do that much work to put it on Switch. Give it to me in HD. You said Prime, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm saying the right game. Okay, good. Yeah,
We-
Prime Trilogy.
We
They're
were
good-looking games.
we were told something about Prime.
I was told no such thing.
You used to work for Nintendo, Tubes. You should have all the answers.
All the insider
Yeah,
information.
give us-
Yeah, one time I showed up to my shift at Nintendo and they didn't have Mario Party in any of the consoles, but I was the first person that had bought it, so they were like, oh, everyone just go to Kayla if you want to learn to play Mario Party today.
That's fair. That's fair.
Uh,
Yeah, about the beard thing, it's a bit ambiguous, by the way, but also keep in mind that the hero depicted in the tapestry is not Link from Breath of the Wild. It's a previous hero from 10,000 years ago. that we do not see in the game. It's the same thing as like the hero of men in Minish Cap that you see in the stained glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same idea. It's an unseen hero that's
Or
not actually in the game.
Skyward Sword
So
has
it doesn't
the
matter
original
if
hero.
it look exactly right. But the point is, it doesn't matter if it doesn't look exactly like Link. It's a different character. It's just a hero from 10,000 years ago. And when you watch those Breath of the Wild sequel trailers and you see mummified corpse Ganon with malice pouring out of him and the evil malice eyes, you know, opening, and his head cracks and he's like, "Argh, argh." What part of that screams that's the good guy? What part of that trailer makes you think, he's the hero, actually? That's the guy right there. Like,
Okay, but the human body, he probably wasn't breathing properly and his brain told him to breathe. Come on.
But doesn't that explain the malice and the evil eyes, the glowing evil eyes? That's the thing, is the artwork in the tapestry it's actually what Rick is saying in the chat here. It's abstract artwork. So it's not going to look exactly
the
like one of
Gerudo say
characters.
Ganondorf was... they say, like, Calamity Ganon took the form of a Gerudo once. And they say that he was like a disgrace to the Gerudo race or whatever.
Right.
So it's like even the Gerudo in the game says that human form Ganondorf, which is likely the one that's sealed underground, was like horrible for the Gerudo race. So like, I think even that by itself. Otherwise, they would have said he was a great man, and then he got corrupted and turned evil. But they didn't say that. They just said he was evil from the beginning.
Another note about why would they keep his body is it's probably the same thing as, my opinion, is probably the same thing as the imprisoned in Skyward Sword. They couldn't kill him. They just couldn't. So they just sealed his body somewhere to keep him out of the way. That's what I think. In Skyward Sword, spoilers if you don't know the story, but the imprisoned, they could not kill the imprisoned. All they could do was seal it, which is why there's a sealing spike and he keeps breaking out and you have to hammer the spike back into his skull a bunch of times, right? We see in Twilight Princess, they tried to execute Ganondorf. They couldn't. They strapped him to a stone, impaled him with a sword that glowed with divine light and magic, and he still was like, nope! Punched a sage to death.
And so,
yeah, I think, why did they keep his body? What else were they going to do? They just had to, like, seal him somewhere to keep him from killing everybody and doing all this bad stuff. Yeah. And so they just put him somewhere out of the way and, like, hope that seal holds for all time. And clearly it doesn't. So that's just how things go in Zelda games, honestly.
Yeah, the seals get weak over time.
Also, this makes me think of a very, very popular quote that I often would refer to and use often for my grandma, is that evil never dies. And in this, Ganon is evil. Imprisoned is evil. You cannot kill evil.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's also the Demise curse that's like always being reincarnated or whatever. But even though Link and Zelda are always the ones being reincarnated, all except for one time, it's the same Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time. The only time it's a different one is Four Swords Adventures. But the Dark Link in Four Swords Adventures is the spirit of the real Ganondorf. So that game has like two different weird Ganondorfs in it. But anyways, like throughout the whole series, it's like the same Ganondorf, and he never actually dies. Like he gets sealed in like a stone thing. He gets sealed in the Twilight Realm. He gets sealed in the Sacred Realm in Ocarina of Time. After being stabbed through the head, through his brain, and then
I think his only canonical deaths is ambiguous in Twilight Princess. I think he dies in Wind Waker, genuinely, and in Zelda 1 he dies for sure, because in Zelda 2 the reason his minions are after you is they want to use Link's blood in a ritual to resurrect Ganon. But even then, he probably still shows up again later, right? So yeah, that's it. That's how it'd be.
And then, I just don't think it is good. Like they kind of did a weird thing in Wind Waker where like Ganondorf has that speech where he's trying to sound good, but then it's like, you kidnapped a bunch of like 6-year-old girls, dude. Like
Yeah, he goes on about how like he gives you his sob story and then he proceeds to like literally punch 2 children. So
Yeah.
you know, then he doesn't get his way. He doesn't get his way. He wants to wish on the Triforce. The king interrupts him. So what does he do? He pulls out 2 swords. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna murder these 2 children here. That's what I'm gonna do." There's no good in that, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So
It's a great game though.
one of you want to pick the final question?
I thought we were only doing 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that could be the final one.
Sorry, we're just coming up on 8, and I gotta get going.
Yeah. All right. So
Did you have the iTunes review?
Oh yeah, the iTunes review. Did you find it?
Did you find it?
Did not
Find it?
let me.
Will
Daniel.
you find it?
Yeah, I'll look for it.
Yeah.
But while I'm looking for it, why don't you let everyone know about your YouTube stuff and your Twitch?
I could not.
Good.
Actually, it's funny is speaking of my YouTube stuff, since you're asking me to tell people about it, is a couple people in the chat earlier mentioned about my stream the other day, in which I'm just gonna brag, guys. I finished Trial of the Sword on Master Mode
Oh, I seen part of that.
on my first try, with only 13 hearts, which is the bare minimum to pull out the Master Sword.
Dang, dude.
And I think that's one of my proudest gaming moments. I feel like that's one of my top gaming accomplishments, was actually powering through that. And people were like, "How you made it look easy?" But I honestly was sweating the whole time. So, but
You like turn around and your entire back is just like drenched in sweat.
it really was, especially like under my knees. You know, like it was just a sweaty time. But it was a great time. It was a great time. But so I do usually. I'm not obviously tonight, but usually I do stream Breath of the Wild on Wednesdays. Though that stream was on Saturday night because I had technical issues last Wednesday. But otherwise, I've been streaming some other games like some Metroids as well. If you guys are interested in getting into that series, and I've got this great dungeon design series in which I'm reviewing every single dungeon in the Zelda series one by one. Each of them gets their own individual video. And this Friday, we're talking the Ancient Cistern. So it's gonna be good. I think it's one of my best videos like ever. Honestly, I'm just psyched for Friday to release it. So that's all I'm gonna say. Everything's Capt Bergerson.
There is
so
a couple of new reviews.
Ooh.
I'll allow it.
So there was one.
Let's read it.
I was kind of holding off on it on purpose because
Should have told me.
it wouldn't be. It wouldn't go with the PG stuff. With Geek
you don't have to
Apprentice.
read it.
No, I'll read it. I think it's a Patreon anyway. But they say from Brandon Izzy. It says, great podcast for hardcore Zelda fans. Huh?
Brandon? Do you think it's Nardnarp?
Maybe.
If it's Brandon? Do you think it is?
Maybe. I know the person's in the
Okay.
Discord because they left a message about it. But they give 5 stars on June 10th. It says, you can listen on your couch. You can listen while you drive. You can listen while you shower. You can listen as you poop. Jesse is clearly the result of using advanced Sheikah technology to bring a Xanax Quaalude smoothie to life. Very relaxing, very satisfying to listen to, and very underrated.
That's kind of amazing. That's kind of a
I mean,
great
like,
review.
This review was sponsored by Tushy Bidet Company.
There's one from, I don't know if we read this one or not. It's from 2 days before that review, but it says, from Not Charles Pick Art 72, gives 5 stars, says enjoyment. I enjoy both Jesse and Daniel's milky and creamy voices when chatting about the Nintendo video game catalog and rumors. I constantly play the videos on loop, not just because of my poor iPhone that is incapable of downloading, yet it tends to as well be of the reasons that the pure enjoyment is one over-the-counter sounds of the world. I don't know what that last part meant.
I don't know, but we have read that because I will never forget that.
I remember that one.
Voices.
Okay, so the newest
It's
one
iconic.
from July 8, Vinard? Sorry, how to pronounce that. Gives 5 stars, says amazing. This is an amazing podcast. I listen to it while I play Legend of Zelda, mow the lawn, or sitting in the car. It's wonderful. I don't have anyone to talk to about The Legend of Zelda, and listening to this podcast is like talking about it to someone. Even though I'm not saying anything, it's just refreshing to listen to people talk about it. People really love the podcast. That is amazing.
That is
Do a
such
good
nice
thing,
one.
Jesse.
Yeah. Now I feel bad for like not having it for a month. Because they're like, dude, I listen to it while I drive to work. What am I going to do?
I guess you'll have to listen to a different podcast.
Yeah. I need to go back and upload the interviews we had with all the voice actors, because there's only a couple that's actually on podcast iTunes stuff.
Yay.
So I'll upload them sometime this week. But Tubes, we finally made it to the greatest person to ever log into MySpace.
Yeah, Chewbacca. Everybody meet Chewbacca. He's Chewbacca at twitch.tv. What?
So tell us about where we can find some of your stuff.
You can find me... How did that guy's review go? In the shower? On the toilet?
You can find me in the shower.
No. You can find me on Twitter at 𝐓𝐿𝐼. I am often there shitposting about something or other. As I've gone on about, and you can see by everything that's going on in my life, I've moved again, so that's why I've been AWOL. It is impossible to have been starting a new job, moving into a new house. Well, I think I'm trying to do school right now, too. I don't know, I haven't done it in a couple of months. Anyways, if you'd like, you can follow me, twitch.tv/𝐓𝐿𝐼 with an extra A, because I don't know how to spell, and occasionally I post on Instagram if you like seeing photos of a girl with pink hair. Which is also 𝐓𝐿𝐼.
Pretty rad.
Not.
And also on this podcast, whenever we decide to do it, and whenever I'm actually going to show up.
Yeah.
Jesse, where can we find you?
Yeah, Jesse.
Not Canada.
True.
I mean, Canada's apparently not real, so...
Yeah. No, everything of mine is at �ΓameOverJesse. We have the Facebook fan page that I should probably be more active on. We have Twitter and Instagram for the podcast. It's just Hylian Gamescast. And you can go there and get updates whenever we're going to be doing a podcast. And if you follow us individually, then you'll probably still get updates, but you'll get a lot of other nonsense as well. Mostly from me talking about Daniel. But yeah, everything's at �ΓameOverJesse. And I guess that's it.
There's one more thing, Jesse.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations on 100,000 subscribers.
Thank
You deserve it, my friend.
Thank you.
He just did
all I'm
it! He
saying.
got his silver play
Done
button!
did it. This guy, right below me here on the stream, apparently.
Oh,
This man did it.
give me
He achieved.
2 seconds.
I'm commending him, and he's like,
Thank
I'm
you.
like, yay.
Thank you. I will take my leave now.
He's the shame. I think he's getting his. I'm guessing his play button, his fancy schmancy silver play button.
He done did it.
He done did
It
it.
only took him years of uploading, guitar videos at first, and it was like, did he just like trip over his table?
I think so. I think so.
So like there's a lot of people that whenever they get their play button, it's like in the background of all of their videos.
Right.
And
Right. That's
just
what I'm gonna do.
Take Daruk down. Just kick Daruk out. It's fine.
no, that one's signed.
You should display it. You should be proud
I need to send
you deserve it.
them to you guys. But this is what they sent. Instead of putting it on the wall, I just had it sitting in my closet. Because like every time I see it in a video, it's like the person has it like placed in the background where it's noticeable, but it's like meant to not look noticeable, if you know what I mean. Like it's just there, and it's there on purpose, but it looks like they just put it there, or what, I don't know. But yeah, so cover up the edges. The box they send it in is basically like this.
Maybe cover your
It's supposed to
home
be
address.
It's very blurry. You can't see anything
Yeah.
anyways.
It's supposed to be signed to make sure that you get it, but it wasn't. And to get a replacement is ridiculous. It's like $150 for
Anyway,
a new
game
one.
over Jesse.
But then for the shipping, it's like another $70. So it's almost like $250 to get a new one. And you're supposed to sign for it. And I live in an apartment building with like a bunch of other people, and they just left it sitting at the door and didn't require it to be signed. But that's the box it comes in, and then it has a weird like
Is this our unboxing video?
no. It has like a weird sponge thing, like
You keep it safe.
sound stuff on it. But this is it.
So
Look at it.
Shiny.
Beautiful.
Game
That's
over
beautiful.
Jesse.
Yeah. and then-
100,000 subs. Oh, that's me. Oh, it's me in there. Man, I'm cool.
That's it. And once the back of it has like a felt, velvety thing, some
Nice.
ASMR for you guys.
Is it heavy? Does it feel sturdy?
Someone
Doesn't feel
broke
like
into
it's-
your house.
it's
Could you
not
use it
heavy.
as a weapon?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It feels as heavy as
You-
like the Arts and Artifacts book.
That's good.
Yeah.
Donkey.
But the cool thing is, I talked to the people at Google, and they are letting me get extra ones for you guys for being on the podcast and being on the channel.
Good.
So I'll only be able to like get one extra one per month because it'd be like way too much to get all of them at once. But once a month, you guys will be getting one as well.
You don't feel obligated to do that because
No.
you earned this. You worked really hard. We haven't even had the podcast in like over a month anyway. So.
Yeah, it's like the channel
It's-
reached 100,000 subscribers and then it just stops posting videos. It's like, all right, we made it. Let's go.
We'll achieve. That's it. No more. So,
Yeah.
no.
I think that's it. Yeah, so everyone go follow Chiblima, go follow Captain Bergerson. There's links in the description. You can leave comments on the actual video, not the live chat. So after it uploads, you can leave it there, or you can join our Discord and leave it in the mailbag there, or Patreon. Yeah, so with all of that, thank you guys for watching. I don't know why there's still almost 100 of you guys, it says, talking, or listening to us talk about nonsense. Yeah, so have a good night, everyone, and do not eat pickles on your pizza.